All right, so we're now being recorded. It's 5 o'clock. And I'm supposed to go to,
Yes, I see Tom.
Lydia Mayor, I'm on.
yep. If I, all right, that's it. You go to the person's name, and then to the right, there's a drop-down menu that says more, and then you can make them the co-host. So I've just made you co-host. I think if you go to the participants on the bottom, you'll be able to see the waiting room when I do the screen share, I believe.
Okay, the only trouble is I'm on a laptop, and so when we're looking at Sibel's diagrams and drawings, I'm not going to be able to see anything else.
I have a laptop too, and it's on the right-hand side, there's a panel. Do you
Yep.
see that now?
I do have the panel, so I'll try,
Okay,
but we have a quorum at least.
yes, we do. So I'll leave the rest to you.
To me?
Well, do you
Okay.
want to do the usual? We only have 2 items on the agenda. It's 640 Chiquesset and the minutes.
Right, so I'm sorry, because we had 2, I was assuming I wasn't doing this, but that's fine. And Sibel, would you like to present 640 Chiquesset? Welcome.
I would. Thank you. Thank you again for meeting with us. And before I go into the drawings and all the material that we sent for the commission's review, I would like to leave it to Jeffrey to just say some things before I start. Jeffrey?
Awesome, thank you. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
First of all, I want to thank the commission co-chairs for their visit and for doing their due diligence to understand exactly the proposal and the context within which it's being proposed. I think it's important, you know, as our needs evolved, you know, we first submitted what we thought was a proposal, the one that you initially approved, and then as we lived in and used the space, we realized that it was inadequate for our needs, and so that's the reason why we submitted a second proposal. And so we appreciate your consideration of that proposal for our home. I think it's important also to emphasize the separation property-wise between our private residence and the Colony of Wellfleet Incorporated. The Colony of Wellfleet does not own the lot or the home here. They're completely separate. And so anyway, we hope that you'll understand that in light of the fact that we hope to make this our permanent residence and to live here for a long time and enjoy the space that we're in, that's the reason that we've modified our proposal. And we hope that it'll meet with your agreement. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So as Jeffrey was saying, just to follow up on what he just described, this is a restoration, rehabilitation, and an addition project. And the purpose is to revitalize the existing structure that instead of leaving it to deteriorate, which it has been neglected for a long time, and in lieu of demolishing it, obviously. This property, I would say, means more to Jeffrey and Mihai more than to anyone else in the town, in the commission, or any particular person, really. And this has been in his family for a very long time. His father and mother had purchased it, as you may remember when we reviewed it in our first meeting in the hearing. And Eleanor, Jeffrey's mother, as some of you know, in the Historic Commission in town, this was really her the center of her life in many ways. She spent a great deal of her time here, and as Jeffrey has. So this means, this project means a lot to them. And because it does, and we realize that it also is something that is very dear to a lot of people in town, that's the reason why we have really taken great care in what we propose as what we're looking to build for this project. And for me personally too, this means a lot because I was part of the Wellfleet Historic Commission, and I'm very proud to say that along with Eleanor and Robert Hankey, we were able to save a couple of the cottages from demolition. So in other words, we're all looking to do what is proper here, and we want to do it with respect. So the design that you had approved initially, as Jeffrey was saying, that they really wanted to take that same concept and just alter it in certain ways. And one of the areas that really didn't make sense to them in terms of the use, because as we know, historical buildings, we want to keep them forever because they add so much to our environment, to the context of our town. However, they have to grow with time and they have to be able to modernize. Otherwise, they're just going to deteriorate. And this, if I could also remind you, this particular structure was built as a gallery. And so it was never meant to be used as a residence. Eleanor used it as her residence without doing much change to it whatsoever. But now it needs to be renovated and it needs a lot of work. So while they're spending so much funds to renovate this and upgrade it, they would like to bring it to more usable space. So one of the areas that they really had a problem with, Jeffrey and Mihai, was the connection was so small that it was like a bottleneck. So from the existing house, and if you could turn to one of the sheets that I did submit to you for your review, which is A1.2 showing the floor plans. So here I gave for your, just so that you could compare it, the existing layout as it is the top. The middle is what the commission approved, and the bottom part, which is called proposed, is what we're proposing right now. So as you can see, there was in the approved plan, the connection was only 36 inches wide. So that's a pretty narrow connection. It's like a bottleneck is what Jeffrey and Mihai were saying, and they felt uncomfortable with that you go through this very narrow space to get to the addition. So that's how it all started. And then we wanted to present what also would be appropriate architecturally. So not just in terms of the use of what it should be in the ideal world, but also architecture needs to be appropriate with the original intent of the structure. And
Sibel, I'm sorry, can I just interrupt? We don't have what you're talking about on screen yet.
yeah,
So
you just
I'm
showed it
getting a little
before.
distracted. Which one is it?
So it's A1.2.
Oh, okay.
So you should go up.
1.2 is this one.
You should scroll up a little bit, please. A little bit more, go higher, and one more above that.
This is the top.
Okay.
Are you talking about the rendering or the plan?
Okay, go to the next sheet now. The next sheet down.
This one?
One more. This, one more. This one.
Okay.
Whoops. Whoops, you lost it. That's not where we're supposed to be, is it? What, that one is A.7. We're supposed to be A1.2.
So it's the second sheet from the top. The second sheet from the top.
It's
Yeah,
this
if you-
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that one.
Exactly, that one.
Okay.
Oh,
Yep.
Thank
So
you.
in this drawing, the top shows the existing first floor plan and the existing roof plan. The middle two is the Wellfleet Historic Commission approved first floor plan and the roof plan with the second floor plan. The bottom one is the one that we are asking for you to review and approve right now, which is we took the approved plan and we enlarged the renovation and the addition part. And what we did is that there's an increase in square feet overall in the first floor plan of 385 square feet. The second floor plan is increased only by 122 square feet. And the reason for these, as I was saying, is you could see in the approved first floor plan, there's a little 3 foot, 36-inch wide connection from the old to the new. And that was the bottleneck that we were trying to clean up, exactly right there. And so in looking at it, we thought that if we could take the existing patio that we were allowed in our last hearing to remove the pergola and the vertical slats. So we thought that that area is already within the footprint of the existing building, albeit it's an outdoor space that's covered. If we were to make that into an interior space as an extension of the existing living room, then that stays within the original integrity of the design. And it pushes the sliders that's existing, it just pushes it out to the end of that existing wall that has the sculpture on one side and the mural on the inside of the patio. And that not only does that actually help in terms of the interior layout of the living room, so there's no bottleneck, because if you were to make that 36 inches wider to 6 feet, then that patio becomes so narrow that it's kind of odd space. So we thought that by putting a roof over that wall, that's the sculpture wall and the mural wall, that actually will preserve that wall, which is really a major part of this structure as well. When you're on Chequaset Neck, that's what you really see very profoundly. So as you may remember from the photographs, right now that mural wall has, we don't know exactly when it was placed, but there's a metal corrugated roof that's like 36 inches wide. So obviously there was a need to put some kind of a water protection over that wall. And by going through so much expense that Jeffrey and Mihai is trying to go through here, which is that wall, we have to go in and really make that into an interior wall. That's quite an expense. And that is a way of preserving that wall that we thought if we're going to do all that, it makes sense then to make it an interior space, but keep it within the integrity of the original design, which is very linear and with, you know, a lot of glass open. And then we also thought that we wanted to still, even though that will be an interior space, the existing patio, we wanted to still keep a connection to the rear garden, which right now is the beauty of that patio, because you could sit in that patio and really see the garden on the other side. So by doing a little bump out coming into from the garden side in the proposed design, so that also creates a buffer from the old to the new. And it's this glass transparent buffer. So architecturally speaking, what, you know, to me, one of the greatest, I'm very honored that I'm actually working on this project. So I really want to also do the right thing here. And by having, you know, everybody here talking about this, it really does help the process in that it's a process of collaboration with respect for one another and respect for the building, really. So the proposed new design that we would like you to respectfully approve tonight is that the connection is 7 feet in width. So if you were to look at the rear from the garden view, the small.
Excuse me,
slider-
excuse me. Hey, Lydia, can you move that up a little? Because I think she's going to talk about the bottom. Yeah. there.
Exactly, thank you.
So,
Exactly.
so this part now is enclosed. The one bottom left is enclosed. Yeah.
Exactly. The bottom
And-
left. is
And the
closed.
two corners is now, is that 36 inches? I mean, 3 feet going into that addition?
The two corners, which
Yeah,
corner? do
right
you
there.
mean?
That
Mhm.
corner
No, no,
left and
that's
that corner right.
greater. No, no,
Pardon me?
that's great. That's greater now. So the
Okay.
36-inch
So you,
bottom.
so you have a flow now. You have a good flow. basically.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay.
There's a good flow and the spaces make sense.
And
And
that's all enclosed.
that is all
Roof.
enclosed.
Okay.
So it would have, so the existing roof line would come straight out at the same plane and create a roof over that patio.
All right.
So
Okay.
that's the part that we are proposing as something new to what you approved. And the second area that we are looking to also build out is, again, it has to do with the functioning of the house, the use of the house. So there's, in the garden side, there is a balcony, a deck, that really is going to need to be rebuilt because one of the posts is rotting. So it, structurally speaking, it's unsafe. And then the guardrails are not according to code. And when you do a project of this extent, the building code, the Massachusetts building code kicks in that you have to bring things up to compliance, safety especially. So that existing deck has to be renovated anyway. It cannot remain as is. So what we're proposing here is that we take that existing deck and we bump it out and make it into an interior space, which would be an extension of the space that's being used right now as a dining room. And if what I could also go through with you, if you could please go to scroll down further, and I could show you the 3D volume, the 3D volumetric drawings that I submitted. So these are the exterior elevations and it explains the materials, etc. But in terms of understanding what the three-dimensional aspect of the whole yes, go scroll all the way down, please. Okay, the colored ones right here. So these are the, okay, that's a good one. We could keep that. So this drawing, oops, too
Sorry,
big.
moment, I'm going to change that.
Okay. So in this drawing, what we tried to show is the first two is the existing street view and the garden side.
Mhm.
The middle part where you see the yellow volumes,
Mhm.
those are the new additions, and that's what you approved. So seen from the street view, you see the existing building as it is, and the new building is set back as a backdrop. The garden side, you see that in yellow, that's what we're adding on, which is what you approved. If you scroll down, please, to the blue, what you see in the bottom part proposed. So you see the blue area is what we're proposing now as compared to what you approved. So from the street side, you are really not going to see much different look as from what you approved. Other than that, you will see that the existing roof line is extending out over the existing patio. and we would still have a lot of glass so that it's all transparent and it becomes interior living room space. And then the garden view is where you see in blue what we're proposing to add on, which is right over the existing deck. And then if you could please go down one more, scroll down one more. So in these, what we did is that we took the existing photographs of the building and then we put in our proposed addition. So this is the street view. And you'll see that, you know, from the street view, the sculpture wall remains the same. And where there used to be the corrugated metal roof, we would take that out and then there would be a roof that extends from the existing out and there would be glass underneath it. So it would still be very transparent as what you see right now.
Sibel, this is Lydia here. So this part here that I'm circling with the arrow,
Yes.
could you go over again? That looks like the original corrugated, but
So that's not the corrugated. So what we were also trying to see is that, does it make sense to build then a pergola? Because there is a pergola right now, although, you know, we had proposed that we would remove that and you approved that we remove it. We were thinking that if we were to build a pergola there, that would be in a way in keeping with what is visually seen right now, where there's like beautiful wisteria growing over it and it becomes a visual, you know, connection to what it is right now currently. So either we could build that as a pergola or the existing roof line could come out and do the same angle and create really a roof over, a solid roof over that area, which then also allows shadow going into the living room and it protects, you know, that glass. So it's again in keeping with what the original design was. There's a lot of overhangs in this building, and that will be an overhang that we would create. If you could please go to the next 3D, then you could see some of the other shots that we worked on. So this one is the view from a little bit more of the side, as you would see. So instead of just seeing it front on at an angle when you're driving from Chequasit and from the golf course area. So you will see that it's still very much like what it is right now, minus the vertical slats. So it's, you would see through the sliders into the space, into the living room. And the addition, that the two-story addition is again a backdrop to the original building from the street side, which is what, you know, one of the things that I recall the board members making comments that it was like a nice backdrop to the whole existing structure. So that's about the same, more or less, as what you approved. So from this view, the only thing that you will see different is that instead of totally open to the air, that becomes that area where the existing patio was, it becomes an interior space with glass, total glass. And you see, you know, the seating inside. And the next one, please, if you could scroll down. And this shot is the, yeah, we need to reduce it down a little. Okay, so this side, this shows us the garden side. And the garden is, you know, big feature of this property. And from this side, the addition that you already approved, which was the kitchen addition, which is what you see on the left side. So that part is what you approved and it hasn't changed. In the middle, is where I referenced to that existing deck where the two posts, one of them is really in bad shape and it needs to be replaced. So that's the area where we took the volume, the existing deck, and we made that into an interior space, part of the dining room inside. And it creates an overhang over the lower floor, similar to what it does now. But instead of a deck, it's this volume that's all glassed in. And then to the right is our two-story addition, almost the same as what you approved. So from the back, what's also nice is that between the existing building and the two-story addition, you see that there's that glass sky, the sliders. So that's the area that I was referencing to before. It creates like this void between the old and the new. And it also visually connects the garden to the living room space. And with that, I would like to open it up to any questions that you may have.
This area that I'm pointing at now is where the mural is that right?
No, there's no
There's
mural
not.
here. The mural is that sculpture wall that faces Chiquesset. So the mural is on the opposite side of that wall, where the patio is inside. So where you would see that mural is where your arrow is right now. So through that slider into the living room wall would be where the mural is. So where you're to the left of where you're pointing, that's just a solid wall right now, plywood wall. And what the design also does is actually it takes the mural, which is on the inside of that patio, and by making it into an interior space, they're really, Jeffrey and me are really celebrating that mural and protecting it because it's pretty, it's kind of fading. And it's not, in the condition that it used to be because it's been out in the elements. So by making it inside, it was never open to the public. It was always used, internally. So it becomes an inside element, which really is, I think, a way of preserving that.
I know in our original meeting, the first, Sarah Kordjeff joined us then too, and both she and Peter are with us tonight. And one of the things that we all agreed we liked was that you had a light touch on the original building, and that the addition was added to just a kind of a small part of the original building, and mostly it was staying the same. And I think everyone liked that and thought you handled it well. And with this, it feels like a lot of the exterior spaces are, well, they're enclosed. There probably are practical reasons for it, but you do lose something.
Well, I would say that it does alter it in a sense, but especially the patio on the Chiquesset neck side, that is an internal space. It's, even though it's an outdoor exterior space, it's really enjoyed all from the inside of the house. It's not a place where it's open to anyone else. And it has a footprint and it has a roof. And yes, it is changing it, but I believe that by extending it out in the way that we're proposing, it's really in keeping with the original concept of the design. So it's another way of expanding the building with as much respect as one can so that it becomes a livable space. But you're right, it will alter that space. It will be an inside room for sure, but instead of an outside room, it's going to be an inside room.
I had a question about colors. Is that okay to ask?
Sure.
Can you hear me?
This
Yes.
is this is Peter speaking. Can each person identify themselves if they
Yeah.
speak?
Peter,
Thanks.
Peter McMahon. So the front, the front of the building is painted that kind of royal blue, right? Kind of a darkish blue.
Correct.
And do you intend to make all of this new work that lighter color, or I was just wondering about the possibility of making the part facing the street the same color to have it sort of disappear a bit, you know, the mass of it.
Well, we considered that,
Mhm.
and it was really in our opinion that instead of taking that blue color and using that for the two-story addition, which then would really highlight the two-story part, it seemed like if one were to leave the front as it is and not repeat that color, that it would really, the two-story addition becomes more of a backdrop, as you know, what was the original intent of this addition. Make it a backdrop, which is the same color as what you see on the garden side. And that I thought would really highlight the existing more than if we were to take that same blue and use that everywhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that, but I mean, just as far as the visual impact of it, that, you know, when things are darker, or when things are lighter, they're more, but anyway, I'm not sure I agree that I think it's a bit more aggressive visually being a light color. Just as far as the visual impact from the street. The part of why the main building is so low key is the dark color of it. I just think it'll make it a more noticeable, but that's just, I mean, I've just noticed when additions, you know, when things are painted brown or a dark color, they kind of disappear.
Well, no, I agree with you, and that's something that we did consider.
Mhm.
However, this is not white. So the only thing in this building at the rear that's white existing is the concrete block was painted white. So we're not making it white. White is what would really stand out. This is more of like a putty color, which integrates, I would say, you know, well with the trees. And so one could see one way or the other, but I think that having that blue remain more prominent in the front, I personally like that, but that's something that, you know, Jeffrey and Mihai and I, we could consider as we go through this, because it should be a backdrop. The intention is not that it should stand out.
I mean, the other colors of the cottages, there's that kind of oxblood red, and then there's brown,
Mhm,
and there's beige, I believe, in the cottages.
mhm.
And
Can I ask a question as a point of clarification as to whether color is part of the approval process here?
Typically, we don't review paint colors,
Mhm.
Thank you.
but I think with, sorry, I think with the modern houses, it's something that you might want to just consider it.
Our thought was to keep most of it in the beige putty color that is existing in this house throughout. We're not going to add any other color to the house, new or old, except trying to keep the similar color palette. And the blue will only remain in the door. We don't want blue anywhere else in our house. And the white wall that, as Sibel mentioned, the brick wall, that's already been painted white. It's been that way for many, many years. So that's the only part that I think Sibel showed in white. However, if you look at the front of the house again, you will see its majority of it is in the beige tone. And only thing we have blue is the door. And that is what we're trying to just maintain and keep. And again, this is not the colony. This is our home. And we have to keep the colony of Wellfleet and this house completely separate. Colony is a business, and that's incorporation of its own, and this is our house. Thank you.
I think all the property is eligible or listed on the National Register, so it is a,
I beg your pardon?
We are registered?
We're
I
not
don't believe
registered.
So we are not.
We're not
it's eligible for listing on the National Register as I think a whole part of this building and the others, I believe.
It was not ever approved to be on the National Register. So right now, as we stand, it's not on the National Register.
I believe all the paperwork was done to have it, to make it eligible, and it was deemed eligible.
But it's not on the list. And it's also, if I could also remind you that this building is less than 75 years old.
Our bylaw allows for buildings 75 years old and older or deemed historic. And the Cape Cod Modern houses fall into, into that category. And because this is deemed eligible, that does give preservation some weight. The thing about the color, I feel, is that's something that could change down the road. I'm kind of less concerned about the color than I am with losing some of the open space on the other side of the house.
Also, if I may add, the color as we're talking, it's that's nothing different than what you approved before.
Mhm.
So previously, what you approved, we didn't change that, whether it's the windows, door materials, the roof materials, that's all as you approved.
Yes. I think, but just my theory is that this color, this kind of taupe color, is to mix stone.
You say that again?
Lydia, you're breaking up a
in
little
my-
bit. I wonder is your Wi-Fi on the way it should be? Because it's hard to hear you.
I'm doing the best I can. I think when we speak at the same time, that tends to garble a bit. So what I was saying is, I think the taupe color, or this brown or beige, is meant to mimic stone, like sandstone or some kind of a stone, and that's why it's so flat. Also, why they made using the plywood or the boards without any overlap. They wanted to look like one. I believe stone, but
You mean like stucco, maybe? Or-
Yeah, stucco. I would.
well, anyway, that's neither here nor there.
So I wonder whether Peter or Sarah have any other comments that they want to make about this change in design.
This is Sarah, and I would like to just give a few comments. First of all, I'd like to clarify the property was deemed eligible for the National Register, both the art gallery and the cottages, back in the 1990s by the Massachusetts Historical Commission staff. There was no formal nomination ever made, but that was done at the time. Eleanor actually asked me to come out and evaluate the properties and get them on the historic inventory for the state. And at the time, she was interested in having them listed on the National Register. So that's why the process began then, but it was never followed through. That said, my own comments about the project are that I think I have a few concerns about the changes that are proposed in this latest version. And it's primarily because they don't differentiate as well between the existing building and the additions that they're proposing. Specifically on the two outdoor spaces, both sort of behind the mural on the front facade and also the balcony to the rear. I understand the interest in expanding the interior space, but what we always try to do when we're adding on to historic properties that have significant architecture like this is differentiate between where the original building ended and where the new additions begin. So I wonder whether you've considered, with the area that's proposed to be enclosed around what's currently a balcony, and also in the area that's currently open behind the front mural or sculpture, whether Isabel, you considered actually having a little bit of a change in the so that you could differentiate between the original rectangular massing of the building and then these extensions that you're proposing.
You broke up a little bit there, Sarah, but as you can see, the way to differentiate between what we're adding and what's there is I pushed in that slider to the garden side that's 7 feet wide. I pushed it into the building and it's glass. So it's not the wall that it's touching on the existing side. And then the same thing on the patio side. We made that all glass slider that's touching the existing sculpture wall. So we thought that it was the transparency is what allows us to say that here's the old and here's the new, and we're only touching it with glass.
Mm-hmm. Well, I understand your interpretation from a historic perspective, would rather retain sort of the original corners of the building. And I guess just for an example, I want to throw out and these are just my own comments. They're meant to be advisory for the Historical Commission to consider, and they're nothing more than that. But I think when you're looking from the Chequasit Neck Road facade, which is perhaps what's familiar to the majority of the public, when you look at the facade, you can see that the portion that's an enclosed space actually has a higher roof form than the sort of pergola that's over the currently open space. And I think that if there was a way to actually continue that differentiation so that the original form still has that roof line that's got the very heavy kind of cornice that's currently painted blue. And then if your new enclosed area that's off to the west could have a slightly lower roof line, it would more closely maintain the original form that's there, rather than sort of extending the roof line as a flat form continued off to the west. And similarly with your balcony that's extending to the rear, I see what you're saying about the openness, but you still lose that what was originally a rear, sort of a wall that terminated and then turned into an open space. And I just say that by mention of, anytime we're working on historic properties, the goal as defined, by the National Park Service standards is to try to make your changes be reversible if possible. And that's why your original design with the addition having so little impact on the original exterior of the building was very good, because you could essentially remove it at some point in the future or alter it at some point in the future without losing very much of the original building. But here you're actually not doing as clear a job of defining the edge of the historic building from the new addition.
Sure, and I could address that because I totally agree that wherever you can, you want to create a different plane. But here, the inside of the existing living room from floor to ceiling is only 8'2" high. And then there's that mural wall that's lower. So, which is the top of that is at 6'9" high. So if we were to lower it, then it means that the roof has to touch that mural wall. And I thought that that's an important element that you don't want to touch. And if I could have it so that it's glass and it's only, so where the top of the existing mural wall stays, and then there's transparency and then a roof line. So that was number one. I couldn't do that. And then I could raise it up even higher, the proposed roof over the living room patio space, but then that brought more attention to that. So I did go through what you're saying. So that's why then I thought, okay, let's leave it at the same level. And then another step is that the corner of the mural wall, we would have liked it if we could have pushed the new slider in more so that the corner of the building is free, corner of the existing mural wall is free from a new material, the slider coming in. But we couldn't do that either because then that wall would be coming straight into the inside mural and interrupt that. So you had to go to the edge of the sculpture wall. It was tricky. It's, I know what you're saying and I appreciate what you're saying, but it didn't work out in that way. So it seemed like this was the best way to carry the existing line out, and it looks seamless. It is different. The patio is an interior space, but it looks like it's seamless the way that it comes together with the existing. And sometimes you want to look seamless with the existing, and sometimes you want to step away from the corners, from the roofs. So in the back is where I stepped away. I have the that 7-foot wide slider stepping away 3 feet from the existing corner of the building. But I couldn't do it on the other sides because of those factors as I explained.
Are there any other questions or comments on the part of Peter and Sarah?
I just have one comment, which is that, yeah, I kind of get the, the alterations on the garden side are sort of keeping in the vocabulary of the existing building, although they're blurring the lines between the old and new. I think the most aggressive thing is the enclosing of that deck, because it's breaking the plane of the building and it's sticking out. And I think you can see it in the rendering. I mean, it goes volumetrically with the new construction. It doesn't relate, and as I said previously, the whole garden side of the building is basically very, very little of the original is intact, because you have the kitchen bump out on the left, and then the dining room bumped out, and then that connector piece and the addition, and even around the corner. But as far as, I think that's the most, as far as the volume goes, the most radical. I think you can see on the photograph page, the bottom left photo of the side of the existing if you go to page 5.
Is this the photo?
Page 5 of the PDF, yeah.
Is this page 5, Peter?
Yes,
That's it.
the bottom right photo,
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, that where the deck is, that will project all the way out to the end. It's a kind of a,
If I could, please,
Yeah.
Peter, it doesn't extend all the way out to the end, actually. It's smaller by 4 feet.
oh, okay, so how far does it stick out?
So wherever you see the existing, it
Mhm.
sticks less out. So it's 4 feet smaller in
So
width.
is it 8 feet or 10 feet or?
Let me see, I'll give you the dimensions. So right now, that deck sticks out 11 feet. And our proposal to build over that deck
Mhm.
is 8 feet.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's, there's many, there's a lot of ways to go about this, but that, it does seem like the most, you know, yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about the whole thing. It's just that there's pretty much no part of the old building left. And that is a pretty, it's noticeable.
Well, actually, I would disagree with that the old building is there in its form inside. And yes, we are adding out and we're jutting it out over the deck. But this is where the discussion would, could also lead that old buildings, historic buildings we have to respect them, but also at the same time, we have to allow for changes and growth. It's just the way that it is. And as long as it's done in a respectful way, on the inside, the exterior walls really, the house is intact. There's no part of the house that we're taking and demolishing and removing. The deck, we're going to take out because it's falling down anyway. And we're going to replace it in a different format. But the concept is still there. So it's a way of really taking, the old, but respectfully adding to it.
Can we see the rear elevation again with the proposed new, what was
That's-
already proposed
yeah.
and approved?
That's sheet 4.
But the one that was in blue and yellow, is that
Okay, this one.
that makes the most visual sense to me.
Okay, and that's Luke speaking.
I'm just thinking that what we already was approved in yellow in the middle diagram, the rear elevation, that almost takes away. I realize it's already approved. To me, it almost takes away some of the dimensions of the rear of the house, how it plays in and out, and you almost regain that in what's being proposed tonight with enclosing that rear deck. And I realize it's kind of ends up changing the whole back of the house, but I think in what we already approved, we're kind of losing some of the dimension and how it's almost one continuous wall across the back of the house, and then you almost regain some of that in the what's being proposed. And I also think that we already approved what's, in my opinion, the biggest change in the overall building. But I realize that it's a significant piece of architecture, and I think Peter obviously has the most knowledge in regards to that style of architecture, and listen to any of his recommendations, but it just seems to me that the most significant changes have already been approved from what I'm seeing. And the front of the building really remains close to the same.
I feel, this is Lydia, I feel like we could approve the enclosure of the patio with the mural, and that will be a big change, and so will the addition, and so will the addition to the kitchen. I mean, we've already approved the addition to the kitchen and the main addition. We approve the patio addition and hold off on this deck enclosure. It feels less intrusive, and it could be down the road when you're living there that with all the new additions, you might welcome that space, that deck space, not being enclosed. You might enjoy that maybe more. So I would, try and, we've already approved a whole lot with, this major addition, the change to the existing kitchen area. And I do appreciate that it was designed as a gallery and not as a residence, and that it's great that you do plan to make this your home. But I think if you go slowly, it would be better. That's the way I feel about it.
Lydia, could I say something, please?
Sure.
The comment that was just made by Mr. Manning, I actually agree with that too. That does add to the way that plane, the existing plane has a play of going in and out and vertically and horizontally. So that is a part that I also thought that it was actually adding to the design. So I appreciate your comment on that. Thank you.
Seems to me by having this blue, with the blue drawing on the bottom, these look like there isn't one, they look like they're on the same plane, the windows. And it has a more kind of corporate feel than a house to me.
But if you go to the exterior elevations, which is not just boxed out, but it shows you where the windows and the doors are, there's a continuation. So that would be sheet number 4. Which is the bottom one, is the one that we're talking about now.
Are we in the right place, Sibel?
Yes, you are. You are exactly there. So you'll see that in terms of the horizontality of the window heads, the door heads, they're in keeping with what's there right now. So there is a continuity, in other words. And these are all good comments because absolutely, it is when you add on and renovate and rehab an existing structure, you want to really do it right.
I guess I'm confused as I look at this compared to the other drawing where the blue and the yellow were, because it did look as though there were 2 blue boxes extending from the kitchen area and from the dining room area. And I can't tell where those are on the lower right drawing.
Okay, so if you look at the northeast garden side exterior elevation,
But whoever that is,
so sorry. I'm so sorry, that was me.
Oh, okay.
So,
You can't hear
yeah.
yourself. Okay, thanks. So yes, I'm looking at the northeast garden side exterior elevation.
Correct. So there you will see that on the bottom left, that's the area that is the kitchen, and we bumped that out.
Okay,
So that's the one that you approved previously.
right.
And area that we're discussing are the ones to the right of that, above the 2 posts.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. And do we have a drawing of what it would look like if we didn't do that part?
If you didn't do the part of the dining room, you mean?
Yes.
So then if you go up to the one that was approved by the commission, then you will see where the decks are, the railings. Nope, nope, nope.
Oh,
Stay in the same
farther
sheet,
down.
please. Number 4 sheet still,
That
yes,
one. Yeah.
exactly. So stay there. And if you go up to the northeast garden side exterior elevation, that was what was approved. And
Okay.
there you will see a big slider and the railings. That would have to be new railings put up there.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's a little easier to see on the building massing drawing with the blue and the yellow. But
So I guess number one, I really appreciate all of the care that that the 3 of you have put into trying to find a design that will increase your living space and honor the original building. And I guess I have 2 concerns. One is about that wall that has the bas-relief on one side and the mural on the other side. And I wonder if it's going to become now an exterior wall of an enclosed space, how it will be possible to truly preserve it. It just seems risky to have it be an exterior wall. And I wonder, how are you going to deal with insulation, for example, on a wall like that that has art on both sides?
Very good question.
Okay.
Very good question. So we have been talking to builders and we looked into that. And what we would do, we don't want to obviously damage it in any way, and we don't want to remove it and replace it. So what we would have to do is build underneath it a foundation wall. So it would have to be done very carefully. And then for the insulation, what we were thinking is that we would take it's concrete block right now. So we would fill the concrete block inside with that. And plus, as it is right now, that same wall is an interior wall. So that same concrete block wall that's outside is actually the same thing inside in the living room. So if it works there, then it should work outside as well.
Okay.
So it will be, that's where one has to really appreciate what Jeffrey and Mihai are trying to do, because this is not an inexpensive solution.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess my other concern relates to what Sarah Korshef was talking about preserving as much as possible of the original facade. And I think along those lines, since we've already approved quite a bit of expansion, it seems to me that a viable compromise might be to say, let's not do the additional space in the dining room but enclose that area where the mural is. I appreciate what you're saying about the fact that it may well preserve the mural in a way that it wouldn't be preserved if it stays outside, because it does look quite faded and damaged by the elements. And I appreciate the fact that you want to preserve it. So I'm fine with approving that part, but my inclination is, along with Lydia's inclination, about maybe not doing that expansion of the dining room space, and at least that would preserve the facade of the back of the original dwelling, because otherwise it is pretty much gone on the back side. I don't know how other members of the commission feel about that. I guess, Lucas, it seemed like you were okay with going with that part.
Well, I think that the more that's approved, the further away it gets from its original form. But I don't see that back deck turning into an enclosed portion of the house as being taking away from the back elevation of the house, personally. But like I said, on the other hand, of course, the more that's changed, the further away from the original form that the house is getting. But I still think that addition that's approved is the most drastic change that we've talked about. I kind of missed something in between the addition and the original structure in the back. It looked like there was it almost looks like you're taking away some space from that inside corner, from what was approved in yellow. There's kind of like an outside corner. And then in the bottom diagram, it almost looks like it becomes like an inside corner. There's less room. There's a deck that connects the two, the addition and the proposed new deck would become part of the interior. That may be something, maybe I missed something, but it almost looks like you're taking away some interior square footage there.
Yes, Lucas, you're totally right. So in the approved plan, what you see in the yellow, the way that I was touching the building, the existing building, was by adding a bump out from the face of the existing building. And whereas what we're proposing right now is that I took that away and I'm bumping it in so that the corner of the existing building shows, whereas before it didn't.
Mhm.
So, and in the diagram showing what we approved for the back of the house, is that one plane right straight across from the left-hand side of the deck where it turns into the yellow proposed
Yes.
addition?
Yes.
Is that just a flat wall right through there? There's no jog in the wall at all there?
Correct, that's the same plane just carried out. So the same, where the existing building is, the middle portion, I pushed that out, so it's one plane across. There's no differentiation there.
So, again, to me, the more changes that are made, the more of the original building is altered or changed. And, but by bumping out both the far left hand of the building, as you proposed last time, and now bumping that porch out, you're almost regaining more of the same look that the original structure had, in my eyes.
Lydia,
would agree
could
with
you move it down a little bit so we can see what the original structure was like? No, the other way. Stop. Can you move it up so we can see both the top and the bottom of that frame? Yeah, a little bit more. Stop. Thank you. So this is what you're referring to, look, the top versus the bottom?
Well, the very top, the way that the far left-hand portion of the building is jogged back
Yeah.
towards the road.
Mm-hmm.
And then with what we already approved, it turns that into one flat wall, which I think she just confirmed that there's no jog at all in that. It just
Yeah.
curves right straight through.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
And then in the far bottom, you kind of regain more of the same look, although more of the building's altered and you're getting further away from the original structure, you are getting closer to mimicking the look of the original structure by
Yeah.
introducing that jog again.
Uh-huh. That's a good point.
I guess the question is, where do you stop then? If you just keep jogging, you know?
Yeah. I feel comfortable with approving the patio enclosure, but not comfortable with the dining room on at this point.
I am quite torn about this.
This is Carol speaking, by
Yeah,
the way.
sorry. I understand, first of all, I greatly appreciate all the work you've done in bringing all of these drawings and together so that we can see what's going on much better than we were at the last meeting. And I am always torn between the need for preservation of historic structures and allowing growth and then losing the original building. And I feel that way very much here. I think I'm inclined to think that we lost more of the original building with the first approval than we actually are by extending out the dining room. So, and I also don't feel wildly comfortable with my knowledge of modern house architecture. So I would tend to leave this to the experts here. With an understanding of how much care has gone into all of these drawings as well. I am really not sure. I think Luke's point is well taken, that that dining room may add a jog that we lost in approving the first plan.
Mhm.
If you think of the facade in the blue, you'll have glass, 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 a lot of reflection. And in this, in the yellow version, there'll be visually, it'll be quite different because the original facade there, and you also get the original proportions and scale.
But actually, Lydia, if I may, the glass, as you said, that's mimicking what's there in the in what was approved. So that same glass is pulled out. So what you see there is just massing, so you don't see the glass, but where we would propose the glass to be is the same width as what it is right now on the existing plane. So the glass amount is the same, other than, you know, from the sides, you could say, sure.
Can we move to the renderings of what it would actually look like in real life? Those were very useful, by the way, Sibel. Thank you for doing those.
You're most welcome. And I have to say thank you to Jeffrey and Mihei, because these cost a lot of money to them. and
Thank
time.
you, Jeffrey and Mihei, because
Yes,
they
thank
are
you very
very helpful.
extremely helpful.
Can I make one comment?
Of course.
I guess the thing that, yes, and I totally agree, it's so much easier to understand with the renderings especially, and the volumetric massing drawings. And this is a really good, I think, like a good precedent for a presentation for a project like this, because you can really, it's a very clear, and it's a great way to understand what's on the table.
Mhm.
One thing about the dining that sort of, you know, bothers me is that it's a cantilevered box that doesn't have a base over it, which seems like a break with the vocabulary. It seems to go with the addition, but it's a real break from the existing building, which is sort of slightly shifting boxes that are on the ground. And this is a volume which is, you know, it's an upper level volume sticking out with nothing under it. And it seems like kind of I understand the comment about it in reintroducing the stepping of the back facade, but it's very different than the other the two-story stepping, you know, it just seems kind of an intrusion out into the, I guess seems like a break with the vocabulary of the existing building.
Could we perhaps see what it would look like as we approved it? Is there a rendering of that? Probably not.
No, that I don't have as it was approved.
So could you describe, Sibel, as we look at this, if we keep it as what we approved, except for the patio part, what is that area going to look like that where the dining room and then the kitchen are? Is there just a flat wall across then all the way to the addition?
Yes, so that will be a flat wall going across, and it would have big sliders, which is similar to what's there now. But right now, it's really small portions of glass doors. And then there's also this, they did this screening thing that slides across. It's like a barn door kind of a thing. So you would see that same width of opening set back on the one plane. And then there would be a deck that protrudes out 11 feet. And it would have the same railings as what's proposed in the addition. And then the two posts as it is right now, but it would have to be totally rebuilt. So it wouldn't be the same as what we see there now. It'll be new materials, new stuff, but it'll look the same as what it is now.
Okay.
Again, I think that having that open space is a real asset, and the view from up there. I think
I'm sorry. The deck that's existing now is and failing it's truly cantilevered. There's no posts or.
No, there's two posts that
Okay.
are, one of them has a diagonal. It's, you know, I don't know if there's a close-up, but they're,
Well, what you see right there, where you're pointing to right now, right there,
black.
it's like that, but it's set farther in from the corners. It's not as spanned out.
I think also it appears here, you can see it. Those are the
I was
posts.
just wondering,
If you go to the existing photos, I believe it shows there,
Yeah,
Which number? Oh, you have it.
right there. Yeah, at the bottom right.
so if you rebuilt the deck without extending the dining room, it actually looks like the joists are running in the opposite direction. So it's not really cantilevered at all. It's structured on posts and footings of some sort.
Correct, correct.
well,
So
about half of it is cantilevered.
now
I was just wondering, because if it's failing and it was going to be cantilevered, that would mean you'd be basically replacing the whole floor system anyway to some degree to get 2/3 of a span inside the room.
Correct. You're absolutely correct. And then the other idea that we had looked into, and then we didn't go in that direction, is we were thinking that, so we would have an 8-foot wide bump out in the dining room, and then the remaining 3 to 4 feet, we could do a deck so that from the garden side, you still see horizontal railings and a deck as it is right now with the bump out. And we could also perhaps do it so that it's a 6-foot bump out with a larger deck. So it's a 6-foot bump out with a 5-foot deck with the railing. So it would look similar to what's there, but with that play of volumes and planes going in and out.
I'm feeling more like Carol now in terms of the mixed feelings, because I think I agree with Lucas with this notion about kind of honoring the ins and outs of the back side. And then I'm also concerned about how much we're losing of the original building. It's a tough decision.
I am very torn.
Because I must say, Sibel, I like your design.
Yeah, me
You know, I think it's a really interesting, attractive design. And the challenge is just honoring the work of what we're supposed to be doing in the Historical Commission and honoring the needs of this family to have the kind of building they want to live in and respect certain aspects of what the building has been.
Thank you very much for your comment, truly. And my background, for some who you may not know me, is that I went to school that's strictly design. I went to Cornell University, Columbia University, and to me, one of the greatest honors in working on this project is that I've been educated in modern architecture. And just like Peter, appreciates this kind of architecture, this is really my passion. And trying to do this right with all these considerations. And then I also passed it through my college buddies. So I got critiques from all my college friends. So this is quite an honor, and I appreciate all the comments here.
Thank
Does
you.
it make any difference to us if it's 6 feet or 8 feet? I'm talking to the others on the commission. I'm not sure. Luke, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah,
Am I unmuted? I think so.
Okay.
You are
What's-
unmuted.
would 6 feet make a significant difference rather than 8 feet here?
You mean for the bump out of the building itself?
Building, right. Sybil just offered 6 rather than,
The existing deck is more like 8 or more, isn't it?
It's
11.
11 feet right now.
Yeah. The 6 or 8 feet to me doesn't seem
Make
like it would make that huge of a difference, really. But
Yeah. Okay. It's kind of what I was thinking too, but I'm not an expert in this.
When you look at the diagram showing just the mass of the existing building, when I'm looking at it, I think it almost looks like a ranch, on a hillside with a cantilever deck there. But obviously it's a significant piece of architecture. And what I'm getting at is, if you just look at the mass with no detail, it's very different than when you take into consideration all the little things that make it what it is. With,
Right.
The heavy copper drip edge and some of the louvered details under the windows, and it's really in the details that set it apart from being ordinary. So I think that a lot of honoring the building would be in preserving a lot of those details, even if it was in a new part of the house.
Okay.
You're totally right with that. I am in total agreement.
Yep, I agree as well, yeah.
Mhm.
The devil's in the details, the window and yeah.
Now, if I may ask you, would you prefer it, all of the members, that we also add a deck outside of that bump out to the dining room?
I don't think well, I personally don't need the deck there. I don't know if it would make it look more bulky and unbalanced and hanging over, like too much hanging over. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I worry about that too, Carol.
I think it would just maybe go too far if the deck was bigger. I don't think that's really the point of what we're trying to say here. It's more trying to preserve as much of the original building as possible and the scale of it and angles of it and things like that. That's what we're fighting about. I don't think it's the size of the deck at all.
I guess this is this is a little bit beside the point, but I'm just aware in our lifestyle here in Wellfleet, how nice it is to eat meals outside. And there's a part
Right.
of me that feels like it really would benefit you to keep that deck close to the kitchen and the dining room, that you could spend all your time out there. We spend all of our time on our porch in the summer.
Yeah, so do we.
We eat all of our meals outdoors and it's absolutely wonderful.
So would you recommend that so we would do the interior expansion and then plus a deck on the outside? So we won't go beyond the footprint of the existing deck, which is 11 feet.
Oh, may I just butt in a little bit? Because I think what we got a little bit lost is if you look at the bump out of the dining room and the bump out of the new living room, between the space right there, there's a gray space.
Mhm.
Actually, it's just what we have right now. So we're going to try to use that as our outdoor. And we love to eat outside in the summer as well. So
Uh-huh.
that's where we're thinking, because then we can still enjoy our beautiful garden. We can use that outdoor. So we can go out from the dining room to that outside. So definitely we will enjoy our outdoor space here.
Good. So glad you'll have a place to do that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Me too. We
Yeah.
love it. We really, really do, being outdoor here. So
It's a gorgeous garden. Okay, so Tom, did you want to say anything about this?
I kind of agree with Luke and Carol. I got to leave it up to the experts on this one. This is a very difficult decision.
So if we're saying we're going to leave it up to the experts, it seems like both Sarah and Peter were saying that they had concerns about the dining room bump out. I don't know if Sarah's still with us, but Peter, would you say that's a correct assessment?
Yeah, I hate to be the, the fly in the ointment, but that is my opinion, yeah.
And this is Sarah. I am still with you. I
I
do
see.
think, I do think that enclosing the balcony is changing yet another of the remaining facades. And as several folks have stated, with the amount of alterations being proposed to the other sides of the building, or to the side and the rear of the kitchen area, it does change one more of the main massing elements of the original building. And while I think it would be possible to perhaps differentiate this new massing from the original and maybe accommodate it in that way, I think the best solution would be to not make yet another change, and instead to try to make your changes on the large addition that's proposed, rather than making another change to the main mass.
Okay, thank you both for your input. So are there any other comments or questions before we put this to a vote?
No,
Okay, so does anyone want to make a motion?
Could I ask one thing? I don't know if Mihai or Jeffrey has anything to say at this point.
Oh,
Was-
thanks, Isabel.
Not being in the same room, it's kind of difficult to get any input from my clients, in other words, and
Yes.
perhaps they could speak on, for themselves.
Okay,
Thank you. We very much appreciate the deliberations that we've heard this evening. We understand, as well as you do, arguably more so, how difficult these decisions are in terms of establishing a balance between what to preserve and how to adapt this structure to a lifestyle and to our needs. And so, yes, there's absolutely trade-offs that we have to make. And we understand, you know, the argument about the visual diversity of the garden side of the house. We considered that as well. That's why we talked to Sibel about whether or not to have a small balcony outside of the proposed dining area, because currently when you walk in the front door, you take 3 steps and you're on top of the dining table. So we were hoping to have a little more space there. But you know, if that's the part that you believe is really critical to maintaining what Peter called the architectural vocabulary, then so be it. You know. Anyway, thank you all for your work on this and the time and all you've put into it. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I think what Sarah suggested makes sense to try to maintain the back portion of the house, the original back portion as is, and maybe be open to, if they're willing to put more work in, and if they'd like to see a change in what was already approved, to change the addition rather than the existing structure.
And so I wonder if the motion might be something like moving to, I'm not even sure how to put this, but to add to the original aspects that we approved, the back addition where there will be a roof over the mural. That was not well put. Anybody want to work on the wording there?
The mural's in the front of the house.
Yeah, in the front.
Yeah, I know. I'm just looking at this diagram and think, yeah.
Could I suggest move to approve the patio enclosure?
To approve the patio enclosure? Yeah,
As
In the front
yeah,
of the,
as presented.
as presented.
Meryl,
And-
this is Sarah. May I make just a quick comment?
Yes.
I just want to point out that the proposal that's shown in blue on your plans, it includes it does make other changes to the 2-story addition above and beyond, you know, enclosing that patio area. So I think any motion you make, you would probably want to consider the entirety of what's shown in blue, and perhaps it would be easiest to just approve that plan minus the enclosure of the rear balcony.
That is an excellent suggestion. Yeah. That makes sense to
and
me.
how do we name this?
So move to approve what should we call that design, Sibel, that's on the bottom in blue?
The new proposed,
Can you refer to the date of the proposal?
sure. So it's the date on the plans, as dated on the plans. Let me see, what was the date on those plans? 20th of October, 2020.
The 10/20/20. Okay, so I move to approve the 10/20/20 proposal as presented, with the exception of the addition to the dining room. Does anybody want to make any modifications to that proposal?
Nope.
Okay.
It sounds good.
Did you get that, Carol? As
I did.
secretary? Okay.
did.
Does anybody want to second that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. And since we're not looking at each other right now, we're looking to signs, we'll have to do this verbally.
You can do stop the sharing.
There we are. Okay, so I, Meryl, vote aye.
I, Carol, vote aye.
Lydia, I.
Luke,
Tom,
aye.
aye.
Oh, sorry, Tom.
Sorry, Luke.
So that's unanimous.
Mhm.
Thank you all very much. We appreciate all of the care and patience and understanding that went into this. And Jeffrey and Mihai, Lydia and I appreciate your talking to us this afternoon about the house and the design. That was very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
very
your
much.
time. Thank you for your time to everybody.
Thank you.
Very-
Yeah.
Okay,
Appreciate
good night.
work.
And thank you to our consultants. Really appreciate both of you being here, Sarah and Peter.
Sure. Pleasure.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, see, we have,
Okay, so Ryan Valelli, I don't know, is
not familiar with Ryan. But
Ryan, do you, oh, we should unmute him. Ryan, do you want to say anything about what brings you here? Oh, he's still muted.
can he, how do we do this?
Can you unmute? Oh, I can do it, I think.
He may not want to be unmuted, I don't know. I keep pressing it, but it doesn't seem to be doing much.
Okay,
Oh, there we, oh, no, no.
all right. Well, the next item is just approving the minutes from September.
Mhm. Okay, I can get those on the screen. Did you all have a chance to read them?
I did.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. I also put in the link to the YouTube video, so.
The YouTube video of the meeting?
Mhm.
Yeah, I was rather shocked to discover that.
Oh, yes, it's on YouTube.
Here we go now.
Where's that, Dad?
Well, let me know if you want to have these read, or if you've read them already, we can consider approving them.
I read them already.
Yeah, me too.
I have to. Luke,
right.
do you need time to go through?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. So I would like to move to approve the minutes. Anybody want a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I'll vote aye.
Yeah, I can't vote because I wasn't at that meeting, right? Isn't that the way that?
Okay. So we have, so Lydia, you said aye?
Mhm.
Luke and
Tom
Tom?
says aye.
Luke says aye.
Okay, thank you all.
We can do a motion to adjourn now.
There was
A
a whole
second.
bunch of minutes. I don't know if you want to go through all of them.
Oh, are there other ones too?
There's one in mid-September and then the beginning of October.
Do we want to go through those now or save them for the next meeting?
wanna-
Have people read them ahead of time?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do that.
Let's do that.
Save them for next meeting.
Okay.
Great.
So can somebody send those to us? I don't, could,
I already sent them. They're on the Wellfleet Historical Commission
Oh,
website.
I'll look.
I'll look at it.
Okay. Good to see you all. Anything anybody else needs to say before we close up?
Go vote.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Please vote. And Luke, I just want to say hi to your daughter. I assume that's your daughter.
Oh, yep, this is Charlotte,
Hi, Charlotte. Nice to have you join us.
and Henry's right over here.
Oh,
They're both eager to go carve pumpkins, so.
Oh, what
Oh,
fun.
great.
Very
Yeah.
good.
important time. All right, we'll let your dad go so you can carve pumpkins with him. Happy Halloween.
Take care, everyone.
All right, thanks.
Happy
Thank
Halloween.
you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
How do we get out of here?
And